I'm Jackson, 64, male. I spent 40 years of my life with sawdust in my hair and calusas on my hands, building homes for other families while trying to build a stable life for my own. I'm a retired carpenter, a widower, and until recently, I thought I was just a burden to the only family I had left. I currently live in a small, rented room above a garage in the city, picking up the pieces of a life that was shattered by the very people I trusted to protect it. A few months ago, my own daughter threw a heavy black trash bag at my chest and told me to get out of her life forever. She thought she was throwing away garbage. She thought she was discarding a useless old man. She had no idea that she had just handed me the keys to my vindication, a staggering amount of cash, and the evidence that would bring her entire world crashing down. Before this story unfolds, I'd love to connect with you. Please let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is in your corner of the world. It's amazing to see how far these stories can travel. The hallway of my daughter's house always smelled like lavender and expensive floor polish. It was a cold, clinical smell. It didn't smell like a home, it smelled like a showroom. The kind where you're afraid to touch anything for fear of leaving a fingerprint. I had been living with Chloe and her husband, Derek, for 6 months, and every single day of those 6 months, I felt like a stain on their pristine white carpet. I sat at the kitchen island, nursing a cup of instant coffee. I wasn't allowed to use the espresso machine. Derek had explained with a tight, patronizing smile that the machine was complicated and calibrated specifically for his beans. It was a lie, of course. I had built intricate spiral staircases and hand-carved mahogany mantels. I was pretty sure I could figure out a button that said brew. But it wasn't about the machine. It was about boundaries. It was about reminding me that I was a guest, and a barely tolerated one at that. Jackson, could you move your elbow? I flinched and pulled my arm back. Derek was standing behind me adjusting his tie. He was 32, sleek, and sharp, featured, like a ferret in a tailored suit. He worked in high-risk financial advising, which, from what I gathered, mostly involved moving rich people's money around to avoid taxes. Sorry. Derek! I mumbled, sliding my mug closer to me. Just waking up. Well, try to wake up a little less intrusively, he muttered, opening the fridge and grabbing a bottle of sparkling water. Chloe has a showing at 10. A big one. The waterfront property. We need the house clear by 9. I'm going to the park, I said, my voice steady despite the shame burning in my gut. I'll be out of your hair. Chloe walked in then. My daughter. She was beautiful, I couldn't deny that. She had her mother's eyes, but none of her mother's warmth. She was dressed in a cream-colored power suit, her hair pulled back so tight it looked painful. She was talking on her phone, her voice pitched in that fake, sugary tone she used for clients. No, absolutely, the view is to die for, she said, winking at Derek while ignoring me completely. I can meet you there. Yes, bye. She hung up and dropped her phone on the counter with a clatter. She looked at me, her expression instantly shifting from bright to annoyed. Dad, are you wearing that flannel again? She asked, gesturing vaguely at my chest. I looked down at my shirt. It was a sturdy red and black plaid soft from years of washing. It's comfortable, Chloe. It makes you look like a lumberjack who got lost in the suburbs. She sighed, pouring herself a coffee from the forbidden machine. If the neighbors see you on the porch, it lowers the property value. I built the porch on our old house, Chloe. I reminded her gently. I know a thing or two about property value. That was a farmhouse, Dad. This is a gated community. It's different. She took a sip, her eyes scanning me with critical disdain. Did you call the nursing home yet? The question hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. I told you, I said, looking into my black coffee. I'm not going to home. I'm 64, not 90. I can still work. I can still take care of myself. I just need access to my accounts. Creating this situation had been a masterclass in manipulation. 2 years ago, after my wife, Martha, passed away, I fell into a deep depression. I wasn't thinking straight. Chloe and Derek had suggested that they help manage my finances while I grieved. They said the market was volatile, that I needed to protect my retirement savings. Like a fool, I signed over power of attorney, thinking it was temporary, thinking they were family. Then they sold my house. They claimed it was falling apart, that the foundation was cracking, that it was a money pit. They sold the house I had built with my own hands, the house where Chloe grew up. They moved me into their guest suite, which was really just a converted storage room without a window. And suddenly, my bank accounts were locked for restructuring or invested in long-term bonds that couldn't be touched. Whenever I asked for money, I got an allowance, a literal allowance. $50 a week. We're protecting you from yourself, Jackson, Derek said, leaning against the counter. You're emotional. You'd spend it all on, I don't know, impulsive things. I want to rent an apartment, I said, my voice rising slightly. I have over $300,000 in savings from 40 years of work, plus the house money.
Where is it? It's safe.
Chloe snapped. Stop obsessing over money. It's tacky. We put a roof over your head. We feed you. You should be grateful. Grateful. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. I feel like a prisoner. Don't be dramatic. Chloe rolled her eyes.
And look, we have to go.
Just stay out of sight today. The cleaners are coming, so stay in your room or go for a long walk, and don't come back until after 6. We're hosting a dinner for the partners. Am I invited? I asked, though I knew the answer. Derek laughed, a short, barking sound. Jackson, it's a business dinner. We're talking about equity funds and real estate portfolios. You'd be bored. Besides, he looked at my flannel shirt again. You don't exactly fit the aesthetic. They left 5 minutes later, a whirlwind of expensive cologne and clicking heels. I was left alone in the silent, sterile kitchen. I washed my cup and dried it, placing it in the cupboard. I walked to the window and looked out at the manicured lawn. I felt a deep, aching loneliness that went beyond missing my wife. I missed my dignity. I missed being a man who provided, who created, who was respected. I went to my room, the windowless box. It was stifling hot. The ventilation in there was terrible, and I suspected Derek had closed the vent on purpose to save on AC. My life was reduced to a twin bed, a small dresser, and a few boxes of personal items they hadn't forced me to throw away. I sat on the edge of the bed and looked at my hands. They were rough, scarred from chisels and saws. These hands had built the cradle Chloe slept in as a baby. They had built the treehouse she played in. They had built the coffin for the family dog when she was 12. And now, she treated these hands like they were dirty. I reached under the bed and pulled out my old leather tool belt. It was cracked and worn, but it smelled like oil and wood. It smelled like me. I ran my thumb over the hammer loop. I missed working. I missed the smell of sawdust. I decided I wouldn't go to the park. I would go to the hardware store. Just to walk the aisles. Just to smell the lumber. It was the only place I felt like myself anymore. As I walked out of the room, I noticed the door to Derek's home office was slightly ajar. Derek was obsessive about privacy. He never left that door open. I paused. I knew I shouldn't snoop. I was a man of principle. But the conversation about my money was gnawing at me. Where was it? Why couldn't I see a single bank statement? I pushed the door open. The office was dominated by a massive glass desk and 3 computer monitors. Papers were stacked in neat piles. I walked over to the desk. On top of a stack of files was a letterhead I recognized. It was from the bank where I had kept my savings. I picked it up. It was a transaction confirmation. Transfer of funds of $50,000. Recipient DNC Holdings. Authorization power of attorney. My heart hammered against my ribs. DNC Holdings. Derek and Chloe, they weren't investing my money. They were funneling it into their own shell company. I ruffled through the papers. There were more. Transfers for the sale of my house. Transfers from my retirement fund. I did the math in my head, my hands shaking. They had moved nearly everything. I heard the front door beep, the electronic lock. Panic seized me. They weren't supposed to be back. They said they had meetings. I forgot the portfolio. Derek's voice echoed from the hallway. Just grab it and let's go. We're already late. Chloe shouted from the foyer. I froze. I was trapped in the office. There was no other exit. I shoved the papers back onto the stack, trying to make them look undisturbed. I scanned the room for a hiding spot. There was none. The furniture was minimalist. Derek's footsteps were heavy on the hardwood. He was coming. I did the only thing I could do. I stepped away from the desk and pretended I was looking at the bookshelf on the far wall, trying to look casual, as if I had just wandered in to look at a book. Derek appeared in the doorway. He stopped dead. What are you doing in here? His voice was low, dangerous. I was just looking for something to read. I stammered. The door was open. Derek's eyes darted to the desk, then back to me. He walked into the room, closing the distance between us. He got right in my face. I could smell his coffee breath. You were snooping, he hissed. I was looking for a book, Derek. Don't be paranoid. Don't lie to me, old man. He grabbed my arm, his grip surprisingly strong. Did you touch my computer? No! Get your hands off me! I jerked my arm away. What is going on? Chloe appeared in the doorway, looking frazzled. Your father was in my office, Derek said, not taking his eyes off me. Snooping around. I wasn't snooping. I defended myself. I was looking for a book to read at the park. Chloe looked at me with pure disgust. You have no boundaries. None. We give you everything, and you invade our privacy. I laughed, a bitter, harsh sound. You control my bank accounts. You decide what I eat. You decide where I sleep. I have no privacy. I have no life. Because you're incompetent. Chloe screamed. You're old dad. You don't understand how the world works anymore. We are trying to save you from ending up destitute by stealing my money. I blurted it out. Silence slammed into the room. Derek's face went pale, then red. Chloe's eyes widened. What did you say? Derek whispered. I saw the paper. I said, my voice trembling but firm. The transfer to D&C Holdings. You're taking my money. Derek looked at Chloe. A silent communication passed between them. It wasn't fear. It was calculation. Get out, Derek said calmly. What? Get out of the office, he said. Go to your room. We will deal with this tonight. I want answers. I stood my ground. Geo, Derek roared, shoving me backward. I stumbled, catching myself on the doorframe. I looked at my daughter. She wasn't defending me. She was looking at her watch. We don't have time for this, Derek, she said coldly. Lock the office door. We'll handle him later. I walked back to my windowless room, my heart pounding like a trapped bird. I knew then that the dynamic had shifted. They knew that I knew. I sat on my bed, staring at the wall. I needed a plan. But I had no money. No car they had sold my truck to, and nowhere to go. I was trapped in a house with thieves who happened to be my family. And I had a terrible feeling that tonight things were going to get much, much worse. The hours that followed were agonizing. I sat in my room, the silence of the house amplifying my anxiety. I could hear the hum of the refrigerator downstairs and the ticking of the clock in the hall. Every sound felt like a countdown. I knew they weren't just dealing with it later. People like Derek and Chloe didn't react with anger and then let things slide. They were strategic. They were likely figuring out how to spin this, how to gaslight me or worse, how to legally commit me to a facility so I couldn't contest their theft. Around 5:00 p.m., the front door opened. They were back earlied. I didn't move from my bed. I heard their footsteps, heavy and fast. They weren't talking. That was bad. Usually, they bickered or debriefed their day. The silence meant they were unified. My door flew open without a knock. Chloe stood there. She had changed out of her suit into jeans and a sweater, but her face was hard as stone. Derek was behind her, holding a large, heavy-duty black trash bag. Get up, Chloe said. What's going on? I asked, standing up slowly. My knees popped. We're done, Derek said, stepping into the room. He snapped the trash bag open. We tried to help you. We tried to be good children. But you're ungrateful, you're paranoid, and frankly, you're a liability. A liability. I stared at them. Because I caught you stealing. We weren't stealing, Chloe shrieked, her composure cracking. We were managing. And now, since you think you're so smart, you can manage yourself. Derek threw the bag at my feet. Pack your things. What? I looked from the bag to them. Where am I supposed to go? I don't care. Chloe said, go to a shelter. Go to a friend's. Just get out of my house. You can't do this, I said, my voice shaking. I have rights. This is my residency. And you have my money. We have our money. Derek sneered. And regarding your residency, good luck proving anything without a lawyer. And good luck getting a lawyer with $0. He started grabbing things from my dresser. My cum, my deodorant, a framed photo of Martha, and tossing them onto the bed. Pack now. Or I'll throw it all on the lawn. I moved like a robot. I felt a strange detachment. As if I were watching a movie of someone else's life imploding, I began folding my clothes, my flannels, my work pants. My few good shirts, I placed them in the bag. Derek grew impatient. Faster. He walked over to the closet. What is all this junk? He pulled out a box of my old carpentry journals and some specialized tools I had kept, my antique chisels, my chalk lines. That's my work, I said. Don't touch that, Derek said. He dumped the box into the trash bag. The heavy tools clanked against each other. Stop it! I lunged forward, grabbing the bag. Derek shoved me back. He was 30 years younger and went to the gym 5 days a week. I stumbled and fell back onto the bed. Don't touch me, Jackson, he warned. Chloe was pacing in the hallway. Has he done? The Catters will be here in an hour. I don't want him here when they arrive. Almost, Derek said. He looked around the room. His eyes landed on a second black trash bag that was sitting in the corner of the room near the door. It was tied shut. I frowned. I didn't recognize that bag. I hadn't packed it. Derek grabbed it. It looked heavy. He grunted as he lifted it. Here, he said, handing it to me. Take this too? Well, what is that? I asked. Your junk from the garage, Derek said dismissively. Old clothes, rags, whatever. We cleared out the storage unit to make room for the new gym equipment. Just take it. He threw the second, heavy bag at me. I caught it stumbling under the weight. It felt dense, lumpy. And this one, he pointed to the bag with my clothes and tools. I tied up the bag with my clothes. I now had 2 large black trash bags. Everything I owned in the world. Let's go, Chloe said from the doorway. She wouldn't even look me in the eye. I picked up the bags. They cut into my fingers. I walked past my daughter. Chloe, I said softly. I'm your father. She flinched, a flicker of emotion crossing her face. Guilt, shame. But it vanished instantly, replaced by cold resolve. You're a burden, she whispered. Just go. I walked down the stairs. The house was beautiful. The setting sun was casting long, golden shadows across the expensive furniture. I walked to the front door. Derek opened it for me, not out of politeness, but to speed up my exit. Give me your key, he demanded. I dug into my pocket and handed him the key. Don't come back, he said. If you show up here again, I'll call the police and tell them you're trespassing and threatening us. I know the sheriff. Who do you think he'll believe? The respected financial advisor or the homeless old man? He slammed the door in my face. I stood on the porch for a moment, staring at the wood grain of the door. I had taught Chloe how to sand wood on a porch just like this one. I turned around. The neighborhood was quiet. A neighbor was walking a dog across the street. They looked at me, an old man standing on a porch with 2 trash bags, and quickly looked away. I felt a tear slide down my cheek. I angrily wiped it away. I wouldn't cry for them. I hefted the bags over my shoulders and started walking. I walked for 3 miles. My destination was a cheap motel on the outskirts of town. The Starlight Inn. I knew it from my contracting days. We used to put up temporary crews there because it was cheap and they took cash. My shoulders screamed in pain. The bags were heavy, especially the one Derek had claimed was rags from the garage. It kept banging against my hip, solid and unyielding. I reached the motel as the sun went fully down. The neon sign buzzed. The NO and VKNCY flickering ominously. I walked into the lobby. It smelled of stale cigarettes and lemon cleaner. The clerk was a young kid with piercings and a bored expression. Help you. I need a room, I rasped. My throat was dry. Cheapest you got. $60 a night. I reached for my wallet. I had exactly $80 in cash. My allowance, plus a little I had squirreled away. One night, I said, handing over the cash, he slid a key across the counter. Room 104. Around back. I dragged the bags to room 104. I fumbled with the lock, my hands shaking from exhaustion and rage. I pushed the door open. The room was dim. The carpet was stained. There was a single bed with a questionable bedspread. I dropped the bags on the floor. The heavy one, the junk bag, landed with a dull, solid thud that didn't sound like clothes. I sat on the edge of the bed and put my head in my hands. I was 64. I was homeless. My daughter hated me. My life was over. I looked at the bags. I needed to unpack my toothbrush. I reached for the bag with my clothes. But in the dim light, I grabbed the other one by mistake, the heavy one. I untied the knot. It was tied tight, double, knotted. I had to use my teeth to loosen the plastic. I ripped the bag open. I expected to see oily rags, maybe some old drop cloths. Instead, I saw stacks and stacks of green. I froze. My brain couldn't process the visual data. I reached in and pulled out a bundle. It was a brick of $100 bills wrapped in a rubber band. I pulled out another. And another. My heart stopped. The air left my lungs. I grabbed the bottom of the bag and dumped it onto the dirty motel carpet. Dozens of bundles tumbled out. It was a mountain of cash. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely breathe. I scrambled backward on the bed, staring at the money as if it were a venomous snake. What is this? This wasn't my money. My savings were in the bank, or so I thought. This was illegal money. This was drug money. Or mob money. Why did Derek have this? Then I saw it, amidst the piles of cash. There was a blue plastic folder. I reached out and picked it up. My fingers felt numb. I opened the folder. Inside was a single sheet of yellow legal paper, covered in Derek's handwriting, and a few printed bank screenshots. I read the handwritten note at the top. Liquidation complete. Project Dad. I felt sick. I read on. Sale of land parcel B undisclosed to owner to 450 Thalhauser. Cash sale to avoid capital gains trail. Kept off books. Equipment auction unsent undesired search orders. Cash withdrawals from joint accounts. These structured at 133rd knowledge dive. Total cash reserve 700,000. Notes keep in bug out bag until offshore account is finalized. Do not deposit in U.S. banks. IRS audit risk high. The world spun. This wasn't drug money. This was me. This was my life. Land parcel B. That was the 10 acres of woodland Martha and I had bought 20 years ago. We had planned to build a cabin there. Chloe had told me the land was worthless wetlands and that the taxes were eating me alive, so I signed a paper letting her donate it for a tax write-off. She hadn't donated it. She had sold it for almost $500,000. And the equipment, my workshop tools, my heavy machinery, they told me they donated it to a trade school. They sold it. They had liquidated my entire existence, converted it into untraceable cash, and were planning to move it offshore. And in their haste to kick me out, in their arrogant, blind rage to get rid of the garbage, Derek had grabbed the wrong black bag from the garage. He thought he was giving me rags. He had just given me $700,000 of my own stolen money. I looked at the door. I looked at the window. Panic turned into something else, something colder, something harder. I wasn't a helpless old man anymore. I was a man with a war chest. I picked up the note again. It proved everything. It proved the fraud. It proved the theft. It proved the tax evasion. If I went to the police, Derek and Chloe would go to prison for years. But prison felt too easy. I looked at the phone on the nightstand. I remembered Elena, my old neighbor from the farmhouse days. She was a retired paralegal. She was sharp as a tack and hated bullies. I picked up the phone. I wasn't going to just survive. I was going to nail them to the wall. The smell of the money was intoxicating. A mix of ink, paper, and the musty scent of the garage where it had been hidden. I sat on the floor of the motel room, surrounded by the physical manifestation of my life's work. $700,000. It was more money than I had ever seen in one place. I counted it. It took me 3 hours. I double counted. 702,500. I restacked the bundles and put them back into the trash bag, then shoved that bag inside the other bag with my clothes to hide it. I couldn't leave it here. It wasn't safe. But for tonight I had to risk it. I pushed the heavy dresser in front of the door. I picked up the phone and dialed the number I knew by heart. Hello? A groggy voice answered. It was late.
Elena? Jackson, is that you? It's 11 o'clock.
What's wrong?
Elena, I need help. I'm at the Starlight Inn.
The Starlight. Jackson, what are you doing there? Where's Chloe? She kicked me out. I said, my voice cracking. But Elena, she made a mistake. A big one. What kind of mistake? She threw a bag at me. She thought it was trash. Elena, there's 700 grand in here. There was a long silence on the other end. I'm coming, she said. Don't open the door for anyone but me. I'll be there in 20 minutes. While I waited, I studied the documents in the blue folder again. Derek was arrogant, but he was meticulous. The Project Dad ledger detailed dates, amounts, and buyers. It listed the buyer of my land, a development company I recognized. It listed the buyer of my equipment. But the most damning part was the tax evasion strategy. Derek had written notes in the margins about how to wash the money through a shell company in the Caymans before bringing it back as consulting fees. This wasn't just family theft. This was federal crime. This was IRS territory. If I turned this in, their lives were over. Derek would lose his license, his job, his reputation. Chloe would lose her status, her home, everything. I felt a pang of guilt. She was my daughter. I remembered teaching her to ride a bike. I remembered walking her down the aisle. Then I remembered her face 3 hours ago. You're a burden. Just go. She didn't see me as a father. She saw me as an asset to be liquidated. A knock at the door made me jump. Jackson, it's Elena. I dragged the dresser aside and opened the door. Elena stood there, wrapped in a trench coat, looking fierce. She was 60, with short gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. She stepped inside and looked at the bags. Show me, she said. I opened the bag. Elena gasped. She reached out and touched a bundle. Sweet Mother of God, they sold my land, Elena. They sold everything. This is it. This is the cash. Elena looked at the papers. She scanned them with her paralegal eyes, humming softly. This is admissible, she muttered. Handwritten notes. Specifics. Jackson. This is a smoking gun? What do I do? I asked. Do I go to the cops? Elena looked at me. You could. They'd be arrested. The money would be seized as evidence. You might get it back in 3 years?
5.
After the trial, after the lawyers take 40%. I slumped on the bed. I can't wait 5 years. I'm 64. Exactly, Elena said. She sat down next to me. Jackson, listen to me. They don't know you have this yet. They have to know. Derek will check the garage. Will he? Elena asked. He thinks you have the junk bag. He thinks the money is safe in the storage bag. How often does he check his hiding spot? I don't know. Maybe once a week. He's busy. Okay, Elena said, a slow smile spreading across her face. So we have a window. A window of time where they think you are homeless and destitute, and they think they are rich and safe. So, Elena whispered, we don't just send them to jail. We destroy them first. We make them feel exactly what you felt today, helpless. Broke. Discarded. How? You said Derek is a financial advisor. Yeah. And Chloe is in real estate. Yeah. They live on reputation, Elena said. They live on credit. They live on the perception of success. If we use this info right, we can strip that away before the first handcuff even clicks. She tapped the ledger. But first, she said, standing up, we need to get this money out of here. You can't stay at the Starlight with $750,000. Where do we go, my place? She said. I have a wall safe. In a guest room that doesn't smell like despair, we loaded the bags into her car. It was terrifying walking through the parking lot, expecting sirens or Derek's BMW to screech around the corner. But the night remained quiet. Back at Alana's house, a cozy, warm cottage filled with books and quilts, we put the money in her safe. She made me tea. We sat at her kitchen table. Here is the plan, Alana said, pulling out a legal pad. Step 1, you disappear. You don't answer calls. You don't show up. Let them think you're gone. Let them relax. Okay? Step 2, she continued. We verify every single transaction on this list. We build a case so tight that when we pull the trigger, there is no escape. And Step 3, Elena's eyes glinted. The anniversary dinner. What? I saw it on Chloe's Facebook earlier, Elena said. In 3 days, they are hosting a massive party, their 5th anniversary. And Derek is announcing his new independent firm. He's leaving his current company to start his own fund, using your money as the seed capital. My blood boiled. He's launching his business with my life savings. That's the plan, Elena said. So, we are going to crash that party.
I like that, I said. But Jackson, Alina looks serious.
Are you sure? Once we start this, there is no going back. You will lose your daughter. I thought about the trash bag hitting my chest. I thought about the coldness in her eyes. I already lost her, I said. No, I just want my dignity back. Good, Elena said. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we go to work. I lay in the guest bed, staring at the ceiling. I didn't sleep. My mind was racing. Somewhere, in that big, cold house, Derek and Chloe were sleeping soundly, dreaming of their stolen fortune. They thought the trash had been taken out. They had no idea that the trash was coming back, and it was going to burn their house down. The morning sun filtered through the lace curtains of Alina's guest room, a stark contrast to the sterile, block box I had inhabited at Chloe's house. I woke up with a start, my heart racing, momentarily forgetting where I was. Then I saw the quilt, the bookshelf, and the absence of the oppressive feeling of being unwanted. I sat up. Today was the first day of the rest of my life. I went downstairs. Elena was already up, sitting at her kitchen table surrounded by papers and laptops. She looked like a general planning a campaign. Coffee's in the pot, she said without looking up. And Jackson, you're legally dead. Excuse me. I poured a mug, the rich aroma filling my nostrils. Figuratively, she corrected, tapping a key. I've been monitoring their social media and the neighborhood chat groups. Not a peep about you, no missing person posts. No worried about dad updates, nothing. As far as the world knows, you simply cease to exist. That hurts more than I expected, I admitted, taking a sip. Good, use that pain, Elena said. Now look at this. She turned her laptop toward me. On the screen was the county clerk's website. I pulled the deed transfer for your land. Parcel B, look who the signatory is. I squinted at the screen. The seller was listed as Jackson Miller, my name. But the signature. That's not my signature, I said, pointing. The J is too loopy and I never cross my... It's like that. Exactly. It's a forgery. A decent one, but a forgery. And look at the notary stamp. I looked. Barbara Higgins. I know her, I said. She's Derek's assistant. Bingo. Elena said. Derek had his assistant notarize a forged signature. That's fraud, forgery, and conspiracy. And since the land was sold across state lines to a developer in Oregon, we might even be looking at wire fraud. So we have them. We have the gun, Elena said. Now we need the bullets. We need to prove where the money went. The ledger says cash reserve. We have the cash, but we need to link the cash to them. How do we do that? Fingerprints? Elena said simply. I stared at her. You want me to dust for prints? No, we are going to hire a private forensic expert. I know a guy. Retired CSI. He owes me a favor from a divorce case I worked on. Ah, is that allowed? Jackson, you found the bag in your possession. You have every right to test the contents of your own property. If Derek's prints are on the inner bands of those cash stacks, the bands that are inside the sealed bag, it proves he handled the cash. It proves he packed it. Okay, I said, feeling a rush of adrenaline. Let's do it. We spent the afternoon meeting with the expert, a grueling man named Mike who set up a portable lab in Alina's garage. He wore gloves and used UV lights. This is messy, Mike grunted, examining the blue folder. Lots of smudges, but here, on the sticky side of the tape used to seal the bag eye. He dusted it with black powder. A perfect, clear thumbprint emerged. That's a good one, Mike said. I can run this against public records if you want, but if you have a suspect, Derek Vance, I said. 2 hours later, Mike looked up from his computer. It's a match. Derek Vance. Financial advisor, prints on file for his securities license. We had him. He had sealed the bag containing 700,000 of unreported cash. But we weren't done. We need to know what he's doing now, Elena said. We need to know the timeline for his launch. We created a fake profile on LinkedIn. I became Robert Thorne, a venture capitalist looking for high-yield opportunities. I requested a connection with Derek. He accepted within 10 minutes. His latest post read, "Big announcement coming this Saturday. Vance Capital is launching proprietary strategies, exclusive entry, financial freedom, fave new beginnings." Saturday, I said. That's the anniversary party. That is going to announce the firm at the party. Elena realized. He's going to solicit investors. He's going to use the party to legitimize the stolen money. He needs to show capital, I said, remembering how these things worked. He needs to show he has skin in the game. That's why he needed the cash. To deposit it into the new business account as his initial investment. But he can't deposit it yet, Elena said. The note said keep in bug-out bag until offshore account is finalized. He's waiting for the shell company to open. Which means? I said, a smile slowly forming. He's going to go to the garage to get the money soon, probably the morning of the party, to show it to a partner or just to gloat. And when he opens that bag, Elena started to laugh. He's going to find your old underwear and a rusty hammer. No, I said. He's going to find the clothes I was wearing yesterday. He'll think he grabbed the wrong bag. Wait. Elena paused. If he thinks he grabbed the wrong bag, he'll think you have the money bag. He'll come for you. He doesn't know where I am. He'll find you. He has resources. Then we need to distract him, I said. We need to make him think the money is still there, or make him think it's lost. No. Elena shook her head. Let him panic. Panic makes people make mistakes. Panic makes them confess. We need a recording, I said. If he calls me, or if I confront him now, I need him to admit it. The party. Elena said again. It has to be the party. He'll be surrounded by his peers, his potential investors, his ego. He won't want to make a scene. If you walk in there looking calm, looking rich, it will break him, looking rich. I looked at my flannel shirt. Elena smiled. Jackson, you have $700,000 in my safe. I think we can afford a new suit. It's evidence, I protested. We only need $1,000 of it, she said. Consider it a legal expense. The next day, we went shopping. I hadn't bought a suit in 20 years. Elena took me to a high-end boutique in the city, far away from closed neighborhood. I stood in front of the mirror in a charcoal gray Italian suit. It fit perfectly. I looked distinguished. I looked powerful. I didn't look like the old man who fixed the deck. I looked like the man who owned the building. You clean up nice, Jackson, Elena said. Adjusting my tie, I looked at my reflection. For the first time in months, I recognized myself. I'm ready, I said. But the universe had one more curveball. As we were leaving the mall, my old cell phone, which I had kept turned off, buzzed. I had turned it on just to check the time. It was a text from Chloe. Dad, I hope you found a place. Derek is really mad about the scene you caused. If you want your winter coat, let me know. I can leave it on the porch. Don't come inside. I stared at the screen.
Nah, you okay?
Nah, I'm sorry. Just don't come inside. I typed back, my fingers trembling. I'm fine. I found something very valuable. I don't need the coat. I hit send. Let them wonder. Why did you do that? Elena asked. To bait the hook, I said. Now they know I have something. They'll be wondering what it is. Risky, she warned. They won't think it's the money, I reasoned. They think the money is safe in the garage. They'll think I mean I found a job or a friend. I was wrong. That night, as we sat in Elena's living room, her police scanner, a habit from her paralegal days, crackled to life. Dispatch, we have a 1021 call from a resident on Oakwood Drive, reporting a possible burglary. Oakwood Drive, that was Chloe's street. Complainant states he checked his storage area and valuable items are missing. Requesting an officer. Elena and I looked at each other. He checked. Elena whispered. He checked the bag. He knows, I said. And knows the money is gone. And he called the police. Elena looked confused. He can't report stolen drug money. His reporting of valuable items, I said. He's smart. He's laying a paper trail. He's going to frame me for theft. But he can't prove what was stolen without admitting what it was.
Oh, he'll lie, I said.
He'll say I stole jewelry or electronics. He'll get a warrant for my arrest. If he gets a warrant, Elena said, her face pale, and the police find you with that cash, it won't matter that it's your money. They'll seize it as proceeds of a crime. You'll be in jail while they sort it out. We'll have to move, I said, standing up. I can't stay here, no. Elena said firmly, if you run, you look guilty. We have to beat him to the punch. How? We file first, she said. Tomorrow morning. We file a civil suit for conversion of funds. We attach the evidence. We get a judge to freeze his assets. That takes days, I said. The party is on Saturday. That's 2 days away. Then we have to confront him before the police find you. Elena said. The phone rang. It was my cell again. It was Derek. I looked at Elena. She nodded. Put it on speaker. Record it? I pressed answer.
Hello, you old thief.
Derek's voice was a low growl. Where are you? I'm around, I said calmly. You took it. I know you took it. I checked the garage. I took my trash, I said. Like you told me to. Don't play games, he shouted. Bring it back. Tonight. If you bring it back, I won't press charges. I'll even give you 10 grand. You can go to Florida. Live out your days? 10 grand? I laughed. From 700.
It's not your money, Jackson! You don't know who that belongs to! You're messing with dangerous people!
I thought it was Project Dad.
I asked. Hear you dangerous. Derek. Silence on the line. Heavy, breathing silence. You read the note he whispered. I did. Okay. His voice changed. It became smooth, oily. Okay, Jackson, you win. Let's talk. Come to the house. We can work this out. We're family. And I'm not family, I said. I'm a liability. Remember? Jackson, please. Chloe is crying. She's worried sick about you. Stop lying. Derek. I'm calling the police. He snapped. I'll tell them you threatened us. I'll tell them you have a gun. They'll hunt you down. Go ahead, I said. Tell them about the money, too. I'm sure the IRS would love to hear about the undisclosed cash sale. You wouldn't dare. I'll see you Saturday, I said.
What? What's Saturday? The launch,
I said. Vance Capital. I wouldn't miss it. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. From rage. He's terrified, Elena said. He's cornered. He's going to come for me, I said. Hey, won't wait for Saturday. Then we need to be somewhere he can't reach us, Elena said. My brother has a cabin up north, 2 hours away. We go there. We hide the money there. We come back Saturday for the party. Let's go, I said. We packed the money in the files. We left Elena's house in the dark. As we drove away, I saw a car turn onto her street, a black BMW. Derek's car. He had tracked my phone. Drive, I told Elena. Don't look back. We sped into the night, the headlights cutting through the darkness. The chase was on. The cabin was freezing. It hadn't been used in months. I spent the first hour chopping wood for the stove while Elena set up a mobile hotspot to keep monitoring the situation. The physical labor felt good. It reminded me of who I was. The swing of the axe, the splitting of the wood. It was honest work, unlike what Derek did. We were safe for now. I had removed the battery from my phone so he couldn't track us again. He's spinning, Elena said from the table. He just posted on the neighborhood watch page. Be on the lookout for my father, in law, Jackson Miller, suffering from dementia, confused and potentially aggressive. If seen, do not approach. Call me immediately. Dementia. I slammed a log onto the fire. That son of a... It's a smart play, Elena noted. It discredits anything you say. If you start talking about stolen millions, people will just say, oh, poor Jackson, his mind is gone. One need undeniable proof. I said, the fingerprint is good, the note is good, but we need a confession, a public one. The party, Elena said again. It's the only way, but we need a way to get in without being thrown out by security before you can speak. Who's on the guest list? I asked. Everyone, Elena said. Local politicians, his banking partners, Chloe's real estate clients. It's a black tie event. I need an invite, I said. You don't need an invite. You need a distraction. And Elena started typing furiously. I'm reaching out to someone. Oh, a journalist, she said. Sarah Jenkins. She writes for the City Chronicle. She's been investigating local real estate fraud. I'm going to send her a teaser. Just the part about the land sale. Will she come? If I tell her there's a scoop involving the mayor's financial advisor, she'll be there with bells on. We spent the next day finalizing the plan. We organized the documents into packets. One for the police, one for the journalist, one for the IRS, and one for Chloe. I wanted her to see it. I wanted her to see exactly what her husband had done. Part of me still hoped she didn't know the full extent. Maybe she thought he was just managing the money aggressively. Maybe she didn't know about the shell companies and the fraud. She knows, Jackson. Elena said, gently reading my mind. She signed the power of attorney. She lives in that house. She drives that car. Willful ignorance is still guilt. I know, I sighed. On Saturday morning we dressed for war. I put on the charcoal suit. I trimmed my beard. I polished my shoes. I looked like a CEO. Elena wore a sharp navy pantsuit. I'm your legal counsel, she said. We drove back to the city. The party was starting at 7:00 p.m. We arrived at 7:30. The street was lined with luxury cars. Valets were running back and forth the house. My former prison was lit up like a palace. Music drifted out from the backyard. We parked down the street. Ready? Elena asked. Ready. We walked up to the front gate. A security guard with a clipboard stopped us. Name? Robert Thorne? I said, using my fake alias and legal counsel. The guard scanned the list. I don't see a Thorne. Check again. I said, slipping $100 bill from my own stash onto the clipboard. Mr. Vance is expecting me. It's regarding the capital investment. The guard looked at the money, then at my suit. He shrugged. Go ahead. The announcement is happening by the pool. We walked in. The backyard was transformed. High top tables, fairy lights, a jazz band. Waiters circulated with champagne. I saw Derek. He was standing on a raised platform near the pool, holding a microphone. He looked frantic, sweating despite the cool evening air. His eyes were darting around the crowd. He was looking for me. Chloe was next to him, smiling a brittle, fake smile. She looked terrified. Ladies and gentlemen, Derek's voice boomed over the speakers. Thank you all for coming. Tonight is a celebration of new beginnings. I moved through the crowd, Elena at my side. People parted for us. I held my head high. I want to talk about trust, Derek said. About building a future. I stopped at the edge of the pool area, right in his line of sight. Derek saw me. His words caught in his throat. The microphone screeched with feedback. He stared at me. He stared at the suit. He stared at the confidence. I smiled and raised a glass of champagne I had grabbed from a tray. Dad, Chloe whispered. Her voice was picked up by the mic. The crowd turned. A hush fell over the party. Hello, Derek, I said, my voice projecting clearly.
Great speech. Security!
Derek yelled, pointing at me.
Get him out of here! He's sick!
He's dangerous! 2 burly guards started moving toward me. I wouldn't do that, Elena shouted, stepping forward. I am his attorney. Mr. Miller is a resident of this property and a shareholder in the funds being discussed.
He's homeless!
Derek screamed, losing his composure.
He's trespassing. Actually.
A new voice spoke up. Sarah Jenkins, the journalist, stepped out from the crowd. She held up a blue folder. A copy of the one I had? Mr. Vance, she asked loudly. Is it true that your initial capital for Vance Capital comes from the illegal sale of your father? In-law's assets hidden in offshore accounts. The crowd gasped. Derek went pale.
Who are you? This is slander. I have the documents,
Sarah said, signed by you, notarized by your assistant, and fingerprint analysis linking you to $700,000 in cash. Derek looked at Chloe. Chloe looked at me. Dad, she said, tears welling up. What is going on? He stole it all. Chloe, I said, walking closer. The security guard stopped, unsure what to do with the land, the tools, the savings. He put it in a trash bag, and he accidentally gave it to me.
Liao.
Derek lunged for me. He jumped off the platform. He was fast. He grabbed me by the lapels of my new suit.
Give it back!
He hissed, his face inches from mine. Give me the money or I'll kill you. He forgot about the microphone. He had dropped it, but it was lying on the stage, still on. But more importantly, Sarah was recording, and half the guests had their phones out. Did you hear that? I asked the crowd. He just threatened to kill me for his money back. Derek realized his mistake. He let go and stumbled back. I didn't mean... Sirens wailed in the distance. Elena had called them 5 minutes ago. It's over, Derek, I said. The police are here. The IRS has the files. And your investors? I looked around at the shocked faces of the local elite. I think they're losing interest. Derek looked around. He saw his world collapsing. He looked at the pool. He looked at the back gate. He ran. He's running, someone shouted. Derek sprinted toward the back fence, knocking over a waiter. He scrambled up the trellis, but he slipped. His expensive Italian loafers had no grip. He fell backward, crashing into the catering table. He landed in a pile of shrimp cocktail and broken glass. The police burst into the backyard.
Derek Vance!
Officer shouted.
Stay where you are.
Derek lay there, covered in cocktail sauce, groaning. Chloe stood on the stage alone. She looked at me. Dad, she sobbed. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. I looked at her. Really looked at her. You knew I was sleeping in a closet, Chloe, I said softly. You knew you kicked me out with trash bags. That's all I need to know. I turned my back on her. The police were cuffing Derek. He was screaming about his rights. I walked over to Alina. Did we get it? I asked. We got it all? She said. I took a deep breath. The air smelled of chlorine and justice. The chaos that followed Derek's arrest was unlike anything the gated community had ever seen. The flashing lights of 3 police cruisers illuminated the meticulously landscaped garden, casting harsh blue and red shadows on the terrified guests. I stood by the pool, calm amidst the storm. Sarah Jenkins was already interviewing guests. The Vesters were scrambling to distance themselves, making frantic calls to their own lawyers. Chloe was still on the stage, weeping. An officer was talking to her. Mum, we need you to come down to the station for questioning regarding your involvement in the financial irregularities.
But I didn't do anything,
she wailed.
It was all him.
You're listed as a partner in DNC Holdings, the officer said. We have the paperwork. She looked at me, her eyes pleading.
Tell them I'm just a real estate agent.
I didn't know about the shell companies. I walked over to the edge of the stage. You sold my land, Chloe, I said. You signed the deed. I saw your signature next to the forgery of mine.
Derek made me sign it, she cried. He said it was for tax planning. He said it helped you.
And throwing me out, I asked. Did he make you do that, too? Did he make you call me a burden? She froze. She couldn't answer that. That was you, Chloe, I said. That was your heart. Or lack of one. I nodded to the officer. Take her. They led her away. She was hysterical, her heels dragging on the Peychaud stones. As they put her in the back of a cruiser, I felt a profound sadness. Not regret. I knew this had to happen. But sadness that it had come to this. The little girl I raised was gone. Mr. Miller. A detective in a plain suit approached me. I'm Detective Henderson. Financial crimes. Detective. I shook his hand. We've been watching Mr. Vance for a few months, Henderson admitted. Small red flags, but we never had the smoking gun. Your packet, the ledger, the cash, it's everything we needed. You did our job for us. I just wanted my life back, I said. We've secured the cash from your friend's safe, Henderson said. It has to be held as evidence for now. But given the clear documentation that it originated from the sale of your assets, the DA is confident we can get it returned to you quickly. Maybe a few weeks. I can wait, I said.
I'm used to waiting.
In the meantime, Henderson said, looking at the house, since the house was purchased with funds commingled with your stolen assets, and since both owners are in custody, you have a claim to the property. Or at least tenancy. I don't want to stay here, I said, looking at the sterile white mansion. This isn't a home. It's a crime scene. Where will you go? I looked at Alina. She was smiling at me. I have a guest room, she said, and a lot of paperwork to help you with. We left the party as the tow trucks were arriving to seize Derek's cars. The next few days were a blur of depositions and meetings. The story hit the news. Financial advisor steals millions from father-in-law, caught by trash bag mix-up. It went viral. Strangers were commenting on social media praising me, condemning Chloe and Derek. I didn't read the comments. I was focused on the future. We found out that Derek had been running a Ponzi scheme for years. I wasn't his only victim, but I was the biggest one. He had stolen from elderly clients, skimming off the top. But because I had the cash, the physical cash, I was the only one who got fully made whole immediately. The other victims would have to fight for scraps from the bankruptcy. 2 weeks later, the judge granted an emergency order releasing my funds. $700,000, plus punitive damages that were likely coming later. I sat in Elena's kitchen, staring at the check. What are you going to do? Elena asked. I'm going to buy my land back, I said. Parcel B. The developer already started clearing it. Then I'll buy it back for double, I said. I don't care. That's where Martha wanted her cabin. And the rest? The rest? I said.
It's for the business. What business?
Miller and Associates, I said. I'm coming out of retirement, but not to build houses. To do what? To help people like me, I said. Elderly people who are being scammed by their families. I'm going to hire you, Elena. We're going to be a consulting firm. We'll audit their finances, check their power of attorney documents, and protect them. Elena grinned. I like the sound of that. But before I could start my new life, I had one last loose end to tie up. I went to the county jail. I sat in the visitation room behind the glass. Chloe walked in. She was wearing an orange jumpsuit. Her hair was unwashed. She looked 10 years older. She sat down and picked up the phone. Dade, she whispered. Hello, Chloe.
Are you going to bail me out?
She asked. The bail is set at $50,000. You have the money now. I looked at her. Even now, in prison, she was asking for money. No, I said. Her face fell. But I'm your daughter. You are, I said. And that's why I'm letting you stay here. You need to learn, Chloe. You need to learn that actions have consequences. You need to learn what it feels like to have nothing. I'll lose the house, she cried. I'll lose my license. You already lost those, I said. No, you have to find yourself. Without Derek. Without the money. Without the status. I hate you, she hissed. I know, I said calmly. But I love you enough to let you hit rock bottom. Maybe when you get out, in a few years we can talk. If you've changed. I hung up the phone. I stood up and walked away. I didn't look back. I walked out of the jail and into the bright sunlight. I took a deep breath. I was Jackson Miller. I was a carpenter. I was a father. And I was free. The nightmare was over. The work was just beginning. The liquidation of Derek and Chloe's life was not a quiet affair. It was a spectacle. Because Derek had used stolen funds to pay for their lavish lifestyle. The mortgage, the cars, the high-end furniture. The court ordered a seizure of assets to pay back the victims. Since I was the primary victim with the most direct claim, And because the cash in the bag was directly traced to the sale of my property, I was first in line. But there were others, mostly elderly retirees who had trusted Derek with their nest eggs, only to find their accounts drained. I sat in the back of the auction house 3 months after the arrest. It was a cold Tuesday morning. I watched as the auctioneer held up a set of crystal wine glasses. I recognized them. Chloe had bought them for Christmas 2 years ago, bragging that they cost $300 a stem. Sold.
For $40!
The auctioneer shouted. Next came Derek's golf clubs, his designer watches, the espresso machine that I wasn't allowed to touch. It was surreal. The objects that had defined their status, the things they valued more than their own family, were being sold off for pennies on the dollar to bargain hunters and strangers. Elena sat next to me, taking notes. You could buy some of this back, she whispered, if you wanted keepsakes. I don't want any of it, I said. It's all tainted. I wasn't there to buy. I was there to witness. I needed to see the physical dismantling of the facade they had built. The biggest blow to them wasn't the loss of the toaster or the BMW. It was the house. The bank foreclosed on the pristine mansion on Oakwood Drive. It turned out Derek hadn't paid the mortgage in 6 months. He had been juggling debts, robbing Peter to pay Paul, maintaining the illusion of wealth while the foundation rotted away. I drove by the house a week before the bank took possession. The lawn was overgrown. The "for sale" sign was crooked. If the windows were dark, it looked abandoned, a hollow shell. It looked exactly like what it was, a house without a home inside. The legal proceedings were even uglier than the bankruptcy. Derek, true to his nature, turned on Chloe immediately. His defense team argued that Chloe, as the licensed real estate agent, was the mastermind behind the property sales. He claimed he was just a loving husband doing what his wife asked. He painted her as the Lady Macbeth of the operation. She hated her father. Derek's lawyer said in open court. She wanted him out of the house. She pushed Mr. Vance to liquidate the assets to pay for her spending habits. I sat in the gallery and watched Chloe's face as her husband threw her to the wolves. She looked shattered. She looked small. When it was Chloe's turn, her lawyer argued that she was a victim of coercive control, that Derek handled all the finances, that she just signed where he told her to sign. The truth, as the prosecutor pointed out, was somewhere in the middle. They were partners in greed. They fed off each other's entitlement. But the most satisfying moment for me, if I could call it that, came from the recovery of my land. The developer who had bought Parcel B, my 10 acres of wetlands and forest, had been stalling. He knew the title was clouded by fraud. He didn't want to give it back. He had already cut down trees. He had already poured concrete footings for a condo complex. My lawyer, a shark Elena had recommended, filed an injunction. We met the developer in a conference room. He was a blustery man named Mr. Henderson, no relation to the detective. Look, Mr. Miller, Henderson said, sliding a check across the table. I didn't know the sale was fraudulent, but I've already sunk $200,000 into the site work. Here's an extra $50,000 on top of what I paid. Just sign the quitclaim and walk away. You're a rich man now. You don't need a swamp. I looked at the check. It was a lot of money. Then I looked at the satellite photos of the land. I saw the clearing where Martha and I used to have picnics. I saw the creek where I taught Chloe to fish. It's not a swamp, I said. It's my life. It's dirt. Henderson snapped. I am being reasonable, I said. I'm giving you the option to settle before I sue you for destruction of property. You cut down 80-year-old oaks on land you didn't legally own. In this state, that's triple damages for timber theft. Henderson turned purple. He looked at his lawyer. The lawyer nodded grimly. What do you want? Henderson growled. I want the land back, I said. And I want you to pay for the reforestation of the trees you cut. And I want you to remove every ounce of concrete you poured.
That will cost me a fortune?
Then you should have checked the deed better, I said. He folded. I got the land back. With the cash from the trash bag, I had financial security. But money sitting in a bank account is just numbers. I needed to do something with it. I started the Miller Project. Though Alina and I rented a small office space in town. Not a fancy glass tower like Derek's, but a renovated brick building with character. We hired 2 staff members, a forensic accountant and a social worker. Our mission was simple. We offered free financial audits for seniors who suspected they were being exploited. The demand was heartbreakingly high. Every day, people came in. A grandmother whose grandson was borrowing her debit card. A retired veteran whose caretaker had convinced him to sign over his deed. We caught them. We stopped transfers. We revoked powers of attorney. We called the police. One afternoon, a woman named Mrs. Higgins came in. She was 80, frail, and sharp-witted. My son says I can't afford to live in my house anymore. She told me, her hands shaking. He says I have to sell it and move into a cheaper condo that he owns. Alina ran the numbers. Mrs. Higgins, you have a pension and Social Security that more than covers your expenses. Your house is paid off. You have zero debt. He says the taxes are too high, she whispered. He's lying, I said gently. He wants the equity in your home to pay off his gambling debts. We found the records. Mrs. Higgins cried. It was a familiar sound in our office, the sound of betrayal. What do I do? She asked. He's my son. You tell him no, I said. And we stand behind you when you do it. We helped her draft a letter. We accompanied her to the bank to secure her accounts. We put a freeze on her credit. When her son showed up at our office, screaming and threatening, I stood up. I was 65 now. I was wearing my work boots and a flannel shirt, but I carried myself differently. Get out, I told him. Before I call the sheriff. This is family business, the son yelled. Exploitation isn't family business, I said. It's a crime. And business hours are over. He left. That night, Elena and I shared a pizza in the office. We saved her house, Lena said. Yeah, I said. We did, you know. Elena looked at me. You look younger than you did a year ago. I feel younger, I admitted. I have a purpose. And the money? She asked. The 700 grand. I've spent about 200 on the land restoration and the business startup, I said. The rest is invested, safely, legally. And Chloe. The name hung in the air. I haven't heard from her since the visitation, I said. Her trial is next month. Are you going? I have to, I said. I'm a witness. I dreaded it. I didn't want to see her again. But I knew I had to see it through to the end. I had to close the book. The day of the trial came. The courtroom was packed. Derek had taken a plea deal. He got 12 years in federal prison for wire fraud, money laundering, and elder abuse. He was already gone, shipped off to a medium security facility. Chloe had refused to plea. She was gambling on a jury. She thought she could cry her way out of it. I took the stand. Mr. Miller, the prosecutor asked, can you describe the events of October 14th? That was the day my daughter threw me out, I said. She told me I was a burden. She handed me 2 trash bags and told me to leave. And did she know about her husband's business dealings? I looked at Chloe. She was wearing a modest gray dress, looking down at her hands. She lived in the house, I said. She spent the money. She drove the cars. And when I confronted them about the theft, she didn't act surprised. She acted angry that she got caught. The jury listened. They didn't see a poor, manipulated wife. They saw a woman who was happy to ride the wave of stolen wealth until it crashed. The verdict took 4 hours, guilty on 4 counts of conspiracy and fraud. She wasn't the mastermind, so she didn't get 12 years. She got 4 years. As the bailiff led her away, she looked back at me. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just looked empty. I walked out of the courthouse. The sun was setting. The air was crisp. It was over. I got into my truck, a new Ford F-150 I had bought with my own money, and drove north. I wasn't going back to the apartment above the garage. I wasn't going back to Alina's guest room. I was going home. The cabin smelled of fresh pine and cedar. It was a smell that healed the soul. I had spent the last 8 months building it. I didn't hire a crew. I didn't hire a contractor. I did it myself with the help of a few old buddies from my carpentry days who were happy to work for beer and barbecue. It sat on the exact spot where Martha had always wanted it, overlooking the creek on Parcel B. It wasn't a mansion. It was a simple, sturdy log home with a wide wrap around porch and a stone chimney. I stood on the porch, a mug of coffee in my hand, watching the morning mist rise off the water. This was peace. The last year had been a whirlwind of legal battles, emotional turmoil, and public scrutiny. But here, in the woods, the noise faded away. I heard gravel crunching on the driveway. It was Alina. She drove up in her Subaru, a box of donuts on the passenger seat. Morning, boss. She called out, climbing the steps. Morning, partner. I smiled. She sat in the rocking chair next to me. I brought the quarterly reports. Miller and Associates is in the black. We actually made a profit this month. Donate it, I said. Give it to the local legal aid clinic. I already did, she grinned. I knew you'd say that. We sat in silence for a moment, listening to the birds. I got a letter today, I said quietly. Elena stiffened. From prison. Yeah? I pulled the envelope out of my pocket. It was crumpled. I had read it 10 times. Do you want to read it? Do you want me to? Go ahead. Elena took the letter. She unfolded the cheap prison stationery. Dear Dad, I don't know if you'll read this. You probably shouldn't. I've been in here for 6 months now. It's hard, but it's also quiet. For the first time in my life, I don't have to pretend to be someone I'm not. I don't have to impress Derek's friends. I don't have to worry about the right clothes or the right car. I've been thinking a lot about the trash bag. The one I threw at you. I think about it every night. I replayed that moment 1,000 times. I was so angry at you for being slow, for being old, for not fitting into the picture I wanted my life to be. But the truth is, I was angry at myself. I knew what we were doing was wrong. I knew Derek was a crook. But I was too weak to stop it, and seeing your honesty, it made me feel ashamed. So I wanted to push you away so I didn't have to look at my own shame. I deserve to be here. I know that now. I'm not asking for money. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I kept the flannel shirt you left behind. The one I made fun of. It's the only thing I have that smells like home. I hope you're okay. Chloe. Alina folded the letter slowly. She sounds different? Alina said. She sounds like my daughter again? I said. Not the stranger she became. Are you going to write back? I looked out at the trees. Not yet. She needs time. And so do I. Forgiveness is a process, Elena. It's not a switch you flip. She broke something deep inside me. It takes time to rebuild a foundation. But you kept the letter. Elena noted. I kept it. I nodded. Maybe in a year. Maybe when she gets out. We'll see. I stood up and stretched. My back popped. So I said, changing the subject. What's on the agenda for today? Well, Elena said, checking her watch. We have a meeting with the city council. They want to give you an award. For what? For the Miller Initiative, the new ordinance requiring independent audits for all power of attorney transfers involving seniors. They're calling it Jackson's Law. I chuckled. Jackson's Law. Martha would have laughed her head off. She would have been proud, Elena said softly. Yeah, I said, feeling a lump in my throat. I think she would. I walked into the cabin and grabbed my jacket. I looked around the room. On the mantelpiece, I didn't have expensive art or golden statues. I had a framed photo of Martha. I had a photo of me and Alina at the ribbon cutting of our office. And I had a framed shadow box. Inside the shadow box was a black heavy duty trash bag folded neatly into a small square, and a $1 bill. It was a reminder that what people throw away, what they deem worthless, can sometimes be the most valuable thing in the world. They threw me away like trash. But like the bag, I held a fortune inside.
Not the money, the resilience.
The truth. I walked out onto the porch, ready to go.
Elena asked, ready?
I said. I locked the door to my cabin, my home. I had lost everything, my house, my savings, my family. But I had clawed my way back. I had turned a moment of ultimate humiliation into a victory. I wasn't just a retired carpenter anymore. I was a fighter. I was an advocate. And most importantly, I was no longer a burden. I was the pillar that held others up. I climbed into the truck next to Alina. We drove down the long, winding driveway, past the restored wetlands where the herons were nesting. The sun was shining through the leaves, dappling the road with light and shadow. Life was complicated. Families were messy, but justice was sweet, and freedom was even sweeter. I'm Jackson, 65 male, and this was my story, more or less so. This story is a classic example of the trash taking itself out, but with a literal twist. Chloe and Derek's downfall wasn't just caused by their greed, it was caused by their arrogance. They viewed Jackson not as a person, but as an object, a burden to be managed and then discarded. Their mistake was fatal in their rush to dehumanize Jackson and treat him like garbage. They became sloppy. Derek's laziness, forcing Jackson to carry his own trash, was the direct cause of his ruin. It's a poetic irony. If they had treated Jackson with even a shred of basic dignity, if they had just driven him to a motel or packed his bags respectfully, they might have gotten away with millions. Their cruelty was their Achilles heel. Jackson's journey from a passive victim to an active seeker of justice highlights an important reality. Financial abuse often happens in the shadows because the victims are ashamed. Jackson broke that cycle by refusing to be ashamed and instead using the very evidence of his humiliation, the trash bag, as his weapon. The moral lesson, the core lesson here is simple but profound. Never underestimate the people you mistreat. Derek and Chloe thought Jackson was weak because he was old and kind. They mistook his silence for stupidity. This is a common arrogance in toxic people. They believe that because they can exploit someone, that person won't fight back. But everyone has a breaking point. Furthermore, this story serves as a stark warning about financial power of attorney. While it is a necessary legal tool, it is also a loaded gun. If you are an older adult or if you have aging parents, trust but verify is the golden rule. Never sign over total control of your assets without a system of checks and balances like a third-party auditor or a second family member who sees the statements. Closing thoughts. We often hear the phrase, money changes people. But in this story, money just revealed who everyone really was. It revealed Derek and Chloe as predators, and it revealed Jackson as a survivor. Be kind to the people in your life, especially those who raised you. The way you treat your parents when they are vulnerable is the truest test of your character. And remember, true wealth isn't what you have in the bank, it's being able to look at yourself in the mirror and like what you see. Stay safe, protect your peace, and be good to one another. Thanks for watching.